Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Oliver, for appearing before us today. I represent the great state of Colorado, and although we are a landlocked state, we certainly care very deeply about our oceans and the species that call our oceans home. Also, we have a number of people in my district, in particular, Colorado 2nd Congressional District, who are very active in this regard. The Inland Oceans Coalition, which has chapters across the western United States, including at the University of Colorado Boulder and Colorado State University in my district, was founded in Colorado and works to build on enthusiasm around marine biology and acknowledgement of the direct impact on the cycles of life in the oceans that are downstream from us. Another example is the Ocean's First Institute in Boulder, Colorado, which promotes conservation in future generations by connecting youth with the wonders of the ocean. I want to talk about some of your testimony today, Mr. Oliver. So just taking a step back, my understanding is that new births of North Atlantic right whales have slowed when compared to the early 2000s. And only about 100 breeding females remain in the population. And the only known calving ground for North Atlantic right whale is off the southeast U.S. coast. And of course, as we've talked about during this hearing, the federal government has now granted permits for nearly 850 combined days of seismic surveying for oil exploration in that precise area. What are the potential impacts of the seismic surveys on mothers and calves, which are key to the population growth?
That calving area that are in which no activity would be allowed, those would be closed to seismic activity under the mitigation measures of the authorization that we've granted.
So you believe the permits that have been granted will have no impact on the ability of the right Atlantic whale?
We believe they will have a negligible impact.
A negligible impact. Okay, well, let me take it this way. My understanding is that in 2017, these same permits were denied by the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, by the BOEM. Is that right?
My understanding is they put the process on hold and...
Well, I'll quote, I have a quote here, perhaps this could be educational. In early 2017, right, this is according to the BOEM, in denying similar permits, concluding that the, quote, value of obtaining the geophysical and geological information from new airgun seismic surveys in the Atlantic does not outweigh the potential risks of those surveys' acoustic pulse impacts on marine life. Those aren't my words, those are the BOEM, right? What's changed since 2017?
Well, sir,
I mean, the science hasn't changed,
well, Congressman,
right?
I can't speak to why BOEM did or did not deny the permits. Our role in this...
They did deny the permits, just for the record, but I'm happy to provide you with that.
I understand. I don't know why they did that.
Well, I just explained to you the quote. I mean, they denied the permits because ultimately the benefits to these 5 oil and gas companies were outweighed by the risks to this endangered species. And since that time, the science certainly hasn't changed. The status of the species certainly hasn't changed. It's more threatened, not less. It seems that the only thing has changed since that time is the politics of it. And this is why it's very frustrating, because most of the issues that we deal with are very partisan. But this happens to be an issue that has bipartisan support. Let me give you just a few of the stakeholders in the region who have expressed concern or outright opposition to the granting of these permits. The governor of Florida, Republican. The governor of Georgia, Republican. The governor of South Carolina, Republican. The governor of Maryland, a Republican. The governor of Massachusetts, a Republican. Right? In addition to a variety, of course, Democratic governors, 240 East Coast state municipalities, over 1,500 local, state, and federal bipartisan officials. So there are a litany, a plethora of experts and folks in these communities who have said that this is not a prudent thing to do. And I'm struggling to understand why NOAA, which is obligated under the law to consult with the BOEM as it grants these permits, would be willing to take this risk. I mean, I guess that's my last question for you, Mr. Oliver.
I would answer, Congressman, that our role in this under the MMPA is to not authorize the surveys themselves, but authorize the marine mammal take that might occur incidental to these surveys with the necessary mitigation, reporting, and monitoring requirements that we believe would be a negligible impact, but that's different than actually.
You keep on referencing the word negligible. I think it's important we can get lost in the technical language. These air gun blasts happen every 10 seconds for hours on end, for weeks on end, to a species that calls the ocean home. They're literally bombs going off for those animals every 10 seconds of every hour of every day for prolonged periods of time. I don't think that's a negligible impact, and I think the science makes clear that's not the case. With that, thank you, Mr. Chair.